Not coming in like a white coat and sitting just like, nice to meet you, sir or ma'am. Like this, I'm Dr. Frasso, and
these are all the things I know.
And I know this, and this, and these are my credentials, and look at my plaque on the wall with my diploma, and it's like, no. It's like they're just a person, and they're trying to get better, so you just need to be a person back to them who knows a little bit of stuff that can help them.
Hey healthcare providers, you're listening to the Burnout to Lit Up podcast. Hosted by myself, Erica, and my husband, Michael. We're an OTPT team that understands the healthcare industry's got some serious issues.
Inspired by our own experience with burnout, we've made it our mission and passion to help you navigate your career in healthcare by cultivating wellness, growing both personally and professionally, and advocating for a better workplace.
Whether you are a clinician or manager, new grad or seasoned vet, join us each week as we share interviews, research, stories, and strategies that will give you the tools to go from burnt out to your most lit up self.
Let's dive in.
This is Halloween. This is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
So it is actually Halloween night on the night that we're recording this, and we got trick-or-treaters outside, so if we get interrupted by some kids, then that's why.
That's the deal tonight. We walked around. I'm a little sad that we're not dressed up. I would dress up as Allie Raisman, and too bad I do have a red leotard, but I left it at home. But oh my God, someone knocked.
There we go. Okay, let me give you some live action commentary on what we're seeing. Hold on, let me open the window.
What do you guys say? Happy Halloween!
We have a princess. We have... We have such a small bag. Oh my God, I hope we don't run out. We got Batman. We got Superman. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you don't like chocolate? Oh, okay. This is the only one I have. Happy Halloween.
Did he ask you if you had anything else?
Yeah, this kid asked me if I had anything else.
Oh my God.
Ungrateful. Listen, you're gonna take what I got.
Yeah,
we only
got
got
Twix, and you will like it.
Yeah, this is sponsored by Twix. No, it's not.
No,
but
it's not.
I love Twix, and so we only bought Twix. And Mike was being a Scrooge. I told him we needed like the variety package of all the different candies, and you're like,
Scrooge is Christmas, isn't it?
yeah, but you can still be a Scrooge any time of the year.
I guess so.
So that was all captured.
Yeah. There you go. A little live action holiday cheer.
Yeah, perfect timing, I guess.
Yeah.
So Halloween.
We saw a giant Elmo. It was like some little girl's dad, and he had a life-size Elmo costume.
I think that was the sweetest thing.
It's really funny.
If you have a kid and whatever their favorite character is, you dress up like that.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
Or like you see, like there's like a dad dressed as Elsa and his daughter's dressed as Elsa. Did you ever see that?
No.
That was from like last year, I think. Or no, whenever Frozen came out. Like
the dad dressed like Elsa?
It was like a dad. He had like a beard. He was like super manly, and he was dressed as Elsa with his daughter. It was like super funny.
That's serious goals.
Yeah.
What I saw a little girl today on Instagram dressed as the Chick-fil-A queen, and her dad was the cow, and her mom was the Chick-fil-A sauce.
Yeah.
Like that's really creative.
Actually, we saw just now a little baby dressed like a chicken, right? Like a
Yeah.
little chicken suit.
Yeah, people are really stepping it up with the creativity. But anyway, so real life action. Did not plan that at all. But today I'm going to interview Mike, and we're going to talk about... That's you. And we're going to talk about his burnout story, because I talk about mine. And if you're brand new to the show, maybe you haven't heard some of my earlier episodes where I talked about my burnout story. And I'm really going to go into that soon, upcoming in one of the episodes upcoming. But today we're going to talk about Mike's burnout story. It's quite different from mine, and his philosophy on living a best life. Why that's been a huge driver in our relationship, in our business, and he's also going to talk about what it's like being married to me.
it's amazing. I love you.
You love me so much.
So much.
So much. But really, we're also gonna, Mike has thoughts on, like going out of the box, like doing things that are out of the box for physical therapy. And if you're in healthcare, or if you're just wanting to do something different in your life, that's exactly what we're doing. We're doing something totally different. So it's going to be a really good episode. And yeah. Yep.
Let's do it.
Sí, señor.
Okay.
Vámonos.
Goodbye. Happy trick-or-treating.
Well,
you'll listen to this a couple days after Halloween, but
I hope you had a nice Halloween party.
Yeah.
If you celebrate it.
Goodbye. Actually, JK on that goodbye. Wanted to talk.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back. Real quick, for the San Jose, California and San Francisco Bay Area listeners, I know there are a bunch of you out there. We're having a meetup event in downtown San Jose. It's
at the Sofa Market.
Yeah, so it's on November 7th, 2018, starting at 6:30, and it's at this place called Sofa Market. You can just search it on Google, SOFA Market. It's in downtown San Jose. It's pretty easy to find, and it's a place that has awesome food and drinks, and we're gonna be all the way in the back patio. And really, we're really excited to like meet some listeners. So if you're listening to this and you're free that night, please come out and say hey, even if it's just like a quick thing, pop in, have a beer or whatever. Like, we really just want to meet a bunch of listeners. So
yeah, it would make us happy. Really
super happy. And they have the best Vietnamese food I think I've ever had. So
it's called Vietnam's.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's so good. And they have Cuban food.
And they have Cuban food too. They have a lot of
They have
food.
everything.
So for nothing else, come get food. So
yeah, the event is on Meetup.
It's on Meetup.
You can search for Burnt Out to Lit Up Meetup on Meetup. But I also have the link for that in my Instagram bio. It's on my Instagram bio. I have a few links in there. Right. It's in there. You can RSVP. I would prefer that so I know who's coming. Or you can just show up, bring a healthcare friend.
We also have a Facebook event set up. So we're finally on Facebook. The podcast is on Facebook. Just search Burnt Out to Lit Up, and the event is posted there on the page. So if you would rather RSVP that way, you don't have to RSVP, but like she said, it would be good so we know we're not just going to be like eating alone like losers.
That would be so sad.
It would be super sad. But yeah, it'd be really cool to have you come. So
see you next week.
Okay, now bye for real.
Bye. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I'm going to start this off a little bit differently. What makes you your most lit up self?
Yeah. What makes me lit up every day is working on something like our business together and this podcast. I know that sounds kind of cliche, like, oh, it's this podcast that makes me lit up, but it actually is. There was nothing I disliked more than just kind of going to my 9-to-5 job every day and not having like a purpose that was just for me or for us. You know what I mean? So like living my like most lit up life is like having something that's my baby and having something that I can work on, like a project like this podcast or like or like Joy Energy Time. That's really it for me.
That makes me feel so special.
Yeah, special lady.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you because the whole reason
why you're a special lady.
I know I'm special, but I would agree with you that what makes me lit up is the fact that you're right, and this is the reason why we're doing this. No one made us do this, and just to put in my thoughts, working on something that means so much to me and working on something that I don't consider work makes me lit up too. So, okay, so thank you for sharing that. I usually ask that of people at the end, but I wanted to switch it up because you don't know what I'm going to ask you really.
Ooh.
So, okay, can you share your burnout story, how you burn out, and just what that looked like for you?
Yeah, so I'm a physical therapist, just to clarify, people who don't know me yet, I haven't really been on that many episodes yet, but I'm America's husband and I'm a physical therapist. My burnout story, I guess, came not as much from like clinical life and the profession in general. It was more from management. And I've had a couple, different jobs, and some were really great management and great ownership, and some not so great. So I think, when we talk about stress and burnout, it's like it can come from a bunch of different places. Some internal, like your way of dealing with certain stressors, and then also external, like the people you work with, the policies that are in part, what do I want to say, the policies that you have to deal with on a daily basis, and that kind of guide your workday and your treatment kind of situation. So for me, it was more kind of the latter. It was like, I wasn't listened to as a clinician. There were different, procedures that I had to go through and different hoops to jump through and inefficiencies that really made the job a lot harder than it should have been. So, that's what I kind of waded through during that job. We can go into specifics if you want, but.
Well, I'm glad you talked about internal and external, because I think a lot of people may just think of burnout as a person is weak, right, or they can't deal with it. But as if you've been listening for a while, it's much more than that. And it's not even that at all. So you brought up external factors and management and leadership. So, there's always a fine line between like complaining or bashing a job versus giving objective feedback. I feel like you have to really like understand what it is that you're dealing with versus people that complain subjectively, like, oh, I've been treated so poorly, or I think looking at a situation and looking at it for what it is, right? And that's what I'm always careful about in sharing my own experiences, and always like leading with emotion too. Like, this is how I felt during that time, and this is how it impacted me. So how did it impact you from a work standpoint? Like, what were some of the efficiencies that you felt like you weren't being listened to, or your opinion wasn't being valued? And then how did it make you feel on the inside?
Yeah, really, it's being listened to. I think it all kind of boils down to that, because you can have a problem with your workplace environment, and most of them are easily fixable. Like, an example, I guess, that I can think of would be like being told to do certain treatments. As a clinician, I mean, that's kind of like that's a deal breaker for me. I have my own license. I have my own way of doing things. If you don't like it, as a manager, it's like, sorry, that's how I think my patients are going to get better, and that's how I'm going to do it. And if not, then we should go our separate ways. You know what I mean? So it was like those kinds of things. And it's like, that's so easily fixable from a management perspective. It's like, all you have to do is like let clinicians be clinicians, and then
give them some autonomy.
Yeah. It's like, and then you wouldn't have those kind of problems. So it's like, that's like, those kind of things burn people out. So
when you feel like you can't exercise, like, I think I've seen this where newer grads come in with newer interventions or newer ideas, and then other clinicians that are older, not to generalize at all, but this is from things that I've seen and have experienced, maybe older clinicians that I have seen, they were more set in their ways. So when a new blood came in and challenged that with new treatments, I think both parties need to explore each other's opinions, and not opinions, but styles and approaches to interventions, and be open and receptive and collaborate and learn from each other, versus I learned it this way, this is my way, this is the better way, and disregarding the other point of view. I think that's where teamwork and a collaborative team and positive, productive energy, right, comes into play at work, versus hostile, toxic, guarded energy that you may see with people that aren't willing to collaborate. So, like, did that affect you when you left work? Like, how were you? I mean, I know this, but
I left that particular job.
I mean, like, when you went home after a day of work, like on the weekend, like, how did you feel like just that experience impacted you overall?
No, I mean, I'm usually pretty good at differentiating my personal life from my work life. I'm like, as soon as I step out, I'm like, I'm not in work mode anymore. Like, I'm gone. Like, the things that happen at work are like, those are so separate. Like, I wall them off, like in my mind. Like, they're like in a cage. It's like a caged beast.
Like different files in a cabinet.
Yeah. Or like
in a cabinet.
It's like a lion in a cage in my mind that like 8 hours a day I have to like go in and feed the lion every now and then.
Right.
But once I'm outside of the cage, it's like lions in the cage. Like, I don't need to be there.
Yeah. I'm thinking about this like out loud and what you've described, and I know this about you. You're very efficient at detaching psychologically.
Yeah.
So I think that, and I know like what you went through during that time and some of the frustrations you went through, and I know that you did a good job of keeping that at work, and that's a really important component, by the way, of it's just
it's
dealing
hard
with
though. Like Sunday night, it's like if you're in a situation where you don't like your job, Sunday nights are never fun. So it's like it does spill out a little bit into your life, and there's nothing you can do, to stop it. But
did you feel, so was there like in that situation, because I'm thinking about someone that's listening that may be going through that, where there's something and some lack of flexibility at work. For example, your schedule really was a hindrance for you.
So like a great example now is like one of the jobs I only have one job, but the job I have now is like one of the best jobs I've ever had. And what's great about it is that we're all a team. We're all listened to. There's flexibility in terms of the schedule, and it's just like a better team approach to things. Like if I had a problem with the way that something is being done, I can go to the manager and be like, hey, I think it would be better if we did it this way. And it would be implemented like if they agree with it, it would be implemented like that day. Like, so it makes me feel like I can help cultivate the work environment that is best for me. And it's like, they let me start at like a later time. Like, for some people that's a big deal. Like, I like to sleep a little more. So I started at 8:30 instead of 8, and they were totally okay with that. It's like, they didn't have to do that. They could have said, no, these are your hours, and you can,
my way or the highway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like those kinds of work environments, it's like those are so easy to cultivate, but it's like certain people just, when they're managers or when they own clinics, it's just like, it's not how they do it, and it sucks.
Yeah. I remember from your previous, those early years of you being a PT and this burnout experience that you were talking about. I just thinking about the different styles of leadership, right? You have like the democratic style of leadership, laissez-faire, and autocratic. And when you are a part of a team where there's clinicians that aren't happy with the leadership style, or maybe I should say lack of leadership, like, do you feel that, in your experience, was there just more negativity amongst coworkers in that environment?
Because what happens is then people start to talk in the lunchroom, and they're like, this is stupid. Why do we have to do X, Y, Z? Or why can't they do this for us? And it's like, that just, it just brews like a terrible, environment. It's like, you want to be, like, if you're a manager, you want to be someone who's super easy to talk to. You want to be someone who is a friend, but like obviously you want to exhibit a bit of authority and stuff because you do call the shots, but it's like, you need to be a person. You need to be part of the team. There's like like football team, like there's a quarterback sometimes calls the shots. Sometimes, yeah.
Dream team.
All you Penn State fans out there, not sure there's any of you listening.
I don't know.
But if you do, Trace the Ace.
Tracy.
He's the best. I actually saw this funny thing on Facebook. It's like, Trace McSorley is so tough, he eats a bowl of nails for breakfast without any milk.
Oh my God. That's funny.
He is super tough. Anyway, what were we talking about?
You were giving an analogy of a quarterback.
Oh yeah, team. So like quarterback is part of the team, and he needs the support of his people around him. But sometimes the quarterback does call the shots, and it's like, just because they call some shots doesn't mean that everyone else doesn't matter. If you don't have a lineman, you're getting beat, you're getting tackled and stuff. So it's like those kind of things.
Yeah, I think sports are a great example of teamwork. Even if you have individual, what's so funny about that?
Because it is a great example of team stuff because it is team.
No, but even gymnastics, for example,
true.
if you follow gymnastics, I don't want to get too into it, but
no, they're always supporting. They're felt like it's a largely individual sport.
Yeah,
but it's like they're always up there like cheering each other on.
They train like a team, so when they go compete, they're not. They have that team mentality. But anyway, I love gymnastics. But getting back to our conversation about.
Can I make a side note quick?
Yes.
If you guys hear kids, it's because it's Halloween and there's like kids running around and screaming and they're on sugar highs right now. So.
Sugar high.
So that's probably what if you're hearing it at all. I hope not, but.
Yeah, one day we'll have a professional studio. But for
one
now,
of these days
we'll have a professional studio. But for now, our little microphone, our little laptop will do. We're totally grassrooting it right now. So yes, we're talking about teams. We're talking about burnout. And I would say I don't want to discredit your experience, but I think your burnout wasn't as intense as how I felt it, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It didn't, affect me as much as you. But I think your story was.
It's different, totally different animal.
Yeah, I mean, it was worse. I mean, I'm not sure if we want to go into that today, but.
I think I'm going to dedicate another episode
to that. Yeah, but I mean, when you hear about that, it was way worse for you. And I think if I was in that situation that you were, it's like I probably would have been affected a lot more. I probably would have quit a lot faster, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a little less like willing to take shit than you, I think.
You are. In your personality, I think personality, and especially in the research I've done, personality doesn't play a huge role in burnout. It actually doesn't as much as you would think, but there are certain personality types that are more susceptible to burnout and stress. So those that are a little bit more neurotic or have neurotic tendencies, those that are type A, they tend to experience burnout more. And I'm definitely more of that than you are.
Yeah, like if you're like a give zero shits kind of attitude, it's like you're gonna deal with it a lot better.
Yeah, you don't really take that from anyone. You're not afraid to voice your opinion about something in any circumstance or any situation. Like that's dumb. I don't like that. And I've always wanted to people please, and I'm very agreeable with people in that sense. So maybe I don't know. Maybe that could have been a part of it, and why people put up with things longer than they should. Subconsciously even, Yeah. So what's your philosophy on living your best life? And I think this is important to talk about because when you think about our name, Burnt Out to Lit Up, we're not saying burnt out to mediocre. We're not saying burnt out to comfortable or any of those words. We're saying lit up. And I already know what's your most lit up life, but you have a philosophy on how life should be lived, and I share that with you, but can you talk about how that has shifted over the years and how that has led to us moving across the country? Like what was really the driver behind that?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm all about like experiences in life. I mean, and this isn't to say like that everyone has to be this way and they have to kind of like think the way I do and like in order to be happy. Like plenty of people are happy, doing 9 to 5 and going home to their, steady kind of home life situation with the kids and the house and the car and like totally loving that. And then that's great. And if that's what makes you happy, that's what you should be doing. Because really what living a lit up life is like
on your own terms, what that means for you.
Yeah, it's like what do you wake up in the morning every day and be like, yeah, this is what I want to be doing. If you don't feel that, then you need to do something else. Don't force it. It doesn't make any sense. So for me personally, I'm all about experiences. So we Erica and I, we decided that we wanted to do travel therapy because it was the best way that we could have as many life experiences as we possibly could. Before we did travel therapy, we were traveling and we were doing like a big trip, maybe once every year or two. We were doing some weekend things here and there, but it's like, if you're grounded in the same place, you don't get, it's like you tend to do the same things, because it's like, yeah, okay, we were living in, close to West Palm Beach, Florida, and it was like, okay, we would go to the beach, or we would go to the same bar, or we would go, it was like we were running out of things to do, and that's when, you start to get stale and you start to get stagnant, and you're like, okay, what's the next thing? I was always kind of antsy and looking for the next thing. So yeah, we decided we were going to do travel therapy, and it's just like, ever since we decided to do that and we made that decision to just go, like, the universe has just been like flooding our lives with awesome experiences. And that's like exactly the reason that we're doing this. I mean, the very first experience we have was, okay, we're quitting our jobs, we're selling everything we own basically, except for, some clothes and some essentials and stuff like that. And we're packing the car up, and we're taking a month, and we're driving across the country to California from Florida. And it was like, not many people get that kind of experience. Like, that's pretty cool to be in a different place every night, and like to be able to see all the things that we saw. And, so that's me. That's all about, that's what I'm all about. I'm all about doing the life experience. I'm all about, seeing as many things as I can. And we got to California. I started working in my travel job, and it was like, every weekend we've been doing something. We went to Yosemite a couple weekends ago. We went to a different park the weekend before. We went to, we go into the San Francisco, area proper, and it was like, it's just really, really cool and different things that we would never have been able to do if we didn't do travel therapy. So,
yeah, I really think what holds people back and what really stops people is fear.
Yeah.
But not even...
So hard to make that decision.
How long were we contemplating travel therapy?
So I contemplated travel therapy for several years, actually. And it's such a hard thing to pull the trigger on, because it's like, oh, I got to find a new place to live every couple months, and I got to find a new gym every couple months, and I have to,
a lot of instability.
What if I don't like the job? And it's like, what if I, don't like the area? It's like, but what if you love all those things? Like, all those fears were like legitimate fears, but I let those get in the way of us pulling the trigger on travel therapy for several years. And it wasn't until that we actually did it, and like, now I'm at my first placement, and I love everything about what we're doing right now. And it's like, that was just such like a validation for me. Like, yeah, okay, you may not love everything, but it might be the best thing you ever do. And it's definitely been the best thing we've ever done together.
I think if your reason to not do something is because you're comfortable, then that should be the reason to do something.
Yeah, that's super true. I could have easily said, maybe let's not do it. I got a good job. And that was the thing. I had a really good job. We had a nice apartment. I was making good money. It was like, I had to think about what that meant, throwing that all away. And that was so hard. I went back and forth so often. And it's like, I'm just glad, that I did finally.
Yeah. I know Shakira said this quote once, routine is a slow way to die. And I'm a person, like, I need a lot of routine in my day. I have a hour-to-hour planner. Like, I plan every hour. I plan my breaks. I thrive off of routine. But at the same time, I crave adventure. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not totally, I think to some degree, we need some sort of routine because it gives us, our minds, stability, and it makes us feel safe to some degree.
Right.
Psychologically. I'm not saying throw away all your routine, but I really resonated with that quote from Shakira, routine is a slow way to die, because in our philosophy, in our life, a lot of things we do are risky, and it doesn't always mean that you're safe. In terms of like, we left our jobs and we moved across the country. For many people, that might not be seen as a safe move.
Sold all of our furniture, most things we owned, packed it in the car and went. That's hard to do.
And working on Joy Energy Time right now, at this moment, this is the true test of, do you really want to be an entrepreneur? Kind of like that show, Do You Really Want to Be a Millionaire? Yeah. Was that the name of the show?
No, it's...
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
who wants to be an entrepreneur? It could sound glamorous, but it's actually not glamorous at all. At least maybe for the first few years. And I've totally accepted that, although it's been challenging mentally. It's been the most challenging thing I've ever done because it's the most unknown thing that I've ever done. There's not a steady paycheck every 2 weeks. There's not a set amount of hours. It takes all the strength, every fiber in my being has to be strong in order to do this. But again, okay, it's not just, it's getting out of the life that you feel like it's not being true to what you are seeking in life. And we didn't let fear or comfort, because we were comfortable and it was nice, we didn't let that stop us. And I think you have to really weigh your options, weigh what is something that you are not going to regret. You know, what's something that your patients would tell you that they regretted? Because I remember we would talk about this. Yeah,
actually, and it was weird. Like when you're grappling with like a decision like that, whether to, you know, go or stay or do this thing or not. Yeah. And it's like, for some reason, like the universe kind of, it like gives you hints. And, you know, I've never been a person that's been like, ooh, the universe is trying to tell me something. Like I'm seeing signs. Like, yeah, I'm always like that. It's more you. And that was never me, but it's like, it was weird when I would find that was actually happening, and it was through my patients. And at the time, before we did travel therapy, I was treating a lot of older people. It was like 70 plus, you know, a lot of geriatrics, right? And they would tell me all the things that they regretted in their life, or like, you know, oh, I wish I could do this or that because they're like their knee was hurting or something and they couldn't do this, or, you know. So it was like, it was easier then for me to be like, you know, those are things that people regret, and I'm taking advantage of my youth and my ability to make those kind of decisions to pick up and go do something really cool that people would be jealous of doing. And yeah, really validating that for me. So yeah, I'm just thinking about people that my biggest fear is waiting, and I'm very impatient with that, and it actually goes against, it doesn't help me sometimes because I am so impatient, because I am afraid of letting excuses stop me from doing what I want. So sometimes I jump the gun. Is that a phrase? Jump the gun before I may be ready. And I fall on my face quite a lot, especially just taking the risk of being an entrepreneur. And as a kid and growing up, I always played it really, really safe. And I think you did too. Just like, right? Would you agree? I think it's partially how you grow up too. You know, if you grow up and everything around you is telling you that play it safe, you need to play it safe, which is typically what happens, I think, in the world, right? Steady job, steady paycheck, steady life, because it's safe. And that's, I don't know, that's hard to break out of. And once you do, it's like, oh, I can do things a little differently. Yeah, your environment plays a huge role in what you do. It's The Habit of Breaking Yourself by Joe Dispenza, by the way. That book is a game changer. You haven't read it or listened to it. No. I listened to it on Audible. Freaking love Audible. Love it. I listen to books all the time on Audible. But that book, yeah, he talks about if you want to make a change, you have to change your environment, or at least imagine that you are not in that environment if you physically can't. Like, for example, if you're around people that complain a lot, and you're starting to realize that that's blocking you from what you want to do or what you want to achieve, it's creating some like an imaginary protection around yourself, and really doing everything you can to be to like at least pretend or get yourself somewhere, either virtually or physically, into another place where you can evolve and to become the person that you want to become. So you know that phrase, surround yourself with, the 5 people you surround yourself with, that's going to tell you who you are. Have you heard that? Yeah. So if you can't surround yourself with people physically, who can you surround yourself with digitally or virtually or Audible, or not on Audible, but
what's the word I want to say? Or audio, like who can you listen to? Who can you watch? Who can you surround yourself with? You know, in that sense, if you want to, if you're in healthcare and you want to become an entrepreneur, but no one around you is supporting that. I mean, no one around me talked about that. So it's pretty weird. I think, you know, for me to have blossomed into this entrepreneur, no one around me, I wasn't in the environment for that. But I surrounded myself constantly with the people I was learning from, like so many people, like Lori Harder and Tony Robbins and Jenna Kutcher, listening to these people and so many more people. Yeah, I think that's just a side note, just a little bit of advice, you know? So, okay, Mike, what's been, you know, now that we've made that leap and we don't regret it. And in fact, we're so, you know, thrilled and we're making this huge life change. What are some of the hard parts?
Hard parts about travel therapy?
Yeah.
Hard parts. It's tough because we haven't had any hard parts yet, but I'm sure, I mean, I know what they could be. What they could be is that, you know, you don't find adequate housing, or if you do find housing, it's way far away from your job, and that makes life in general very difficult. Could be, you know, that you don't like the place you work, but then again, it's like you got to ask the right questions in the interview. You know, I was driving in.
Oh my gosh!
I was driving in my car when I interviewed for this job, and I still managed to decide that this was going to be a good situation for me. You have to ask the right questions, and we could talk about, you know, interviewing all day long, but it's like,
what are like just some of the top 3 questions, or maybe top 5 questions that are important during an interview?
Yeah. Okay. So as a PT, I mean, I'm always asking about how many patients am I treating per day? How many am I treating at one time? Because for some reason that shit still happens where you're doubling up on patients, and it's absurd. And one of the biggest problems in our profession
is overlapping.
Yeah. Yeah. We can talk about that a little more, but let me move on. What other questions? You got to talk about, you got to ask how many other PTs are in the clinic. A lot of times with these travel jobs, it's like they're hiring a PT because they just need a PT really bad, and you might be the only PT there. It might be like you and one PTA or like an OT or something. You want to make sure that maybe there's at least one other PT, actual PT there, so that you can, 1, learn from that person, and 2, kind of make sure that you're not going to be just absolutely slammed with workload. What else? I had a whole list of them from my recruiter. Mm-hmm. Remember, you had that list? It was like, so it was like, we had left Chicago. We were on our road trip after we decided to do travel therapy.
Was that the 8-hour day to South Dakota?
Yeah. So it was like an 8-hour driving day, and I was waiting for this call from like one of the jobs, and you know, I'm doing it like through the Bluetooth, like in the car. Like that's how I'm interviewing for this job. It was like super kind of crazy. And Erica has my list of questions there like written down. She's trying to like show me them, and I'm driving and I'm missing toll roads, and I'm just like, it was actually kind of a mess.
You missed the toll.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
But there was a whole list of questions, and I'm kind of just blanking on some good ones.
I mean, if anything, we can put them up in the blog post, but I think that's really important. How many patients per day you need to know.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's the biggest thing that's going to burn you out is like,
workload,
are you treating
caseload.
20 patients a day and overlapping every 15 minutes? Or are you seeing patients for one-on-one for half hours or even hours? Like I believe we're supposed to as clinicians, you know. Another good question is like, you know, what kind of clinic is it? You know, some clinics have like a culture, like we do more manual therapy here, or we like to do more exercise, or so-and-so is certified in NDT, and we do a lot of neuro stuff. It's like, you know, understanding what you're getting into is really important.
How about evals?
Yeah, I mean, you can ask about, you know, what's the percentage of like evals that I get that are orthopedic or post-surgical or that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay. Just those things.
Yeah, I think especially when you're newer, afraid to leverage an interview. You just kind of go with whatever they say, but everything is negotiable, and you should not be afraid to ask questions, because you need to, it's not only do they want you, but it's a matter of, do you want to work for them? And sometimes I think when you're newer, you might not, you might just take whatever comes along first. But being savvy about putting your needs first, and knowing if you're going to be supported or not, looking for mentorship, especially, I think that's important. And in travel therapy, especially that, you might not get that. And just knowing like how long onboarding is, how long how the training is, just knowing how much support you're going to receive, if you could get that information in an interview. I didn't think we'd be talking about this today, but we're just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's really good. I think those are things, like some practical things we could also like bring up more in this show. We
can do a whole episode on effective interviewing. I mean, really, that's a super important skill to have. So we're all marketers. We market every day. We market ourselves to people. I heard that somewhere, because we think of, selling and sales as like something weird, but we do it every day. Yeah, I'm a salesman.
Yeah. In an interview.
Every PT who's listening to this, you're a salesman.
Every healthcare.
You have experience in sales.
Yeah.
You're selling yourself to the patients. You're selling the profession of physical therapy and that it's going to work for this patient. You're selling the facility you work in. You sell every interaction that you have with patients.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know that you said that if you developed a good relationship with patients, especially in your old job, that they were more inclined to follow through with certain things. Can you talk about like what's the most important thing when it comes to developing that therapeutic relationship?
Yeah. So the personal relationship that you have with your patients, in my opinion, it's almost more important than how you treat as a clinician. I've had plenty of situations where like I had a really positive relationship with them. It's almost like, we're friends, after a couple of sessions. It's like your personalities just jive, and you kind of like joke around with each other. I'm sure everyone's had that,
and the complete opposite.
And the complete opposite, sure. But like the people that you have the best personal relationship with, they're gonna be more compliant. They're gonna feel better about what they're doing. And it absolutely, in my opinion, translates into outcomes, like better outcomes. Like they will, I don't ever give like paper, handout like outcome scores, like how did we do? How much did you improve? But if we did, the people who had the better, personal relationship with the therapist is going to score higher in terms of how better they feel. And I don't know, maybe there's something like psychologically, like if you enjoy going to therapy and enjoy talking with your therapist and stuff, like how that messes with your like recovery. I don't know. We could talk about that kind of, maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe we should look for that. But so, I mean, what's the best way that I know to cultivate that relationship? It's not being so stuffy. It's not being a stuffy professional. Every time that person, like let's say I have an evaluation, right? I see someone for the first time. I'm the first clinician that they've had more than a 5-minute discussion with, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's someone who's coming to physical therapy for an issue. Who have they seen before me? They probably went to their doctor who saw them for 5 minutes. They probably saw a PA who took some intake and maybe gave them an injection or something. They maybe saw a nurse at some point get their blood pressure taken. It's like the PT is the person that they see who really, like, they might be the only clinician that sits them down and has more than a 5-minute discussion about what their pain is, what problems they're having, and discussing with them how to actually solve them.
Same as OT.
Same as OT as well. But it's like in that interaction, like right off the bat, they're probably like, wow, this guy's like, these people are trying to figure me out, like figure out what's going on. Like it's such a great opportunity for for you to like just like explode their mind with like awesome personality and like get them to be like, I trust this dude or dudette. And like, you know, this is what I need. Absolutely. I'm stoked about going back the next time. So it's like being not coming in like a white coat and sitting there like, nice to meet you, sir or ma'am. Like this, you know, I'm Dr. Frasso and
these are all the things I know.
And I know this, and this, and these are my credentials, and look at my plaque on the wall with my diploma, and I believe that this is your problem and this is what I have to do. It's like, no. It's like they're just a person and they're trying to get better. So you just need to be a person back to them who knows a little bit of stuff that can help them. You know what I mean? You're just two people. So that's the best way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think when you take the time to listen, and since I taught human interactions last semester, well, I'm talking in terms of semesters. I taught it this spring in the MOT program, my last semester teaching so far. But when I co-taught that class, human interactions, we learned the art of therapeutic listening, and I should do a whole episode on that. So when I told you, Mike, about therapeutic use of self, you're like, what? I've never heard of that. I'm like, what? You didn't have a class on therapeutic use of self?
I'm not sure I still know what it is.
Well, I think that's what you're referring to, but we had a whole class on it because in OT, we're really focused on better things. We're better. Oh my God, that age-old debate is never gonna end. What's better, PT or OT?
There's no debate.
Oh my God, yep, OT's better. So we learned about therapeutic use of self, and that's just what you referred to, and maybe you're not using those terms, but listening and using different modes of, if you need to encourage or you need to collaborate or you need to inform, whatever it is that person needs, it's like you're using yourself as a therapeutic tool. You're the best tool that you have in your profession. It's not the assessments you use. It's not the things you know. It's how you use yourself. And I've seen therapists that maybe, aren't necessarily, they don't have the most certificates. Maybe they don't have the most trainings. Maybe the other therapists in the clinic have more trainings and credentials. But I have seen that those therapists that use themselves better in terms of building relationships with parents, because I did work in pediatrics. So if you build solid relationships with parents, they will trust everything that you say. And one golden rule, is even if you've worked with adults, so it's a little bit different, but working with kids, sometimes you think no one's watching, like if the parent's not in the session, but always, regardless if it's someone, regardless of age and regardless of that, you always pretend that someone is watching you, because sometimes we can get in these little like routines and we do things rote. Is that a word?
In what?
Rote.
Oh, like, I don't know what that means.
Like we do things automatically, like kind of.
Yeah, you get in a groove.
And sometimes we forget, but parents especially and patients, they know when you're just going through the motions and when you actually go the extra mile, maybe just by checking in and asking a question and listening. I think listening is your most powerful tool in how you build relationships. Again, people want to feel seen, heard, understood. They want to like you and trust you. So I think you totally hit that.
That's true. Yeah, that's what I mean about like you're the first clinician to have more than like a 5 or 10 minute conversation with a person.
You can really develop that.
And it's like what we always learned in school, like when you were taking a subjective history, was like let the patient talk. Like I think it was an interesting tidbit. It was like the average patient is interrupted like 20 seconds after they start to talk when you're getting like an intake on them. So it's like just letting them go and describe their symptoms to you is something that's like super undervalued. It's like it's always like special tests and like this and that. It's like most times I can just about diagnose a patient just by talking to them. Like most of the time, like without ever putting my hands on them, I can be like, all right, it's probably this, and this is going to guide my treatment most likely.
When I was first starting out, I was nervous that if I didn't show my knowledge or say what I think right away, then it showed that I wasn't capable. But what I've learned over the years is that it's okay if you take your time to observe, and you can say, maybe I don't know right now. I need to observe a little bit more. Like, I think that shows your strength even more, because you're not just guessing, you're not just acting out of nervousness, but you're so confident in yourself that you know that you need to observe a little bit more, or maybe talk to the patient or the parent a little bit more. And I think that really shows that your capability versus just like acting on your first impulse. Okay, cool. So I want to moving to
keep it moving.
So I'm not sure if this is, we're in a unique circumstance. We're married, but we have our business together. And, you know, I've worked for clinics where the owners are married. So I totally get now what it's like to be married and work together. So do you have any advice for people listening that may be working with their spouse or partner, and how to like stay sane?
Yeah, I think my advice would be to think really hard first about doing it. It's not that I don't like working with my spouse. I do. In fact, it's a shared passion that we both have to work on this podcast together and to work on the business in general. But it's like we get into situations, I think, where most conversations are about the business. And that's a natural thing, because there's like, God, when you run a business, there's like a trillion things that you have to do yesterday.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and those, like, your to-do list never goes away. It just grows.
Yeah,
in fact, it grows the more your business grows, the more your to-do list grows. So it's like, it like that never stops. And that's really kind of hard. It's hard to have all that on your plate, and you have to really be, I don't know. It's
intentional about. I think you have to be intentional about when. The thing is that, again, I'm not sure how unique our situation is if we're the only ones doing this, but if you're listening and maybe you're working with a friend, or you're working with family or a spouse, or you, whatever it is, or maybe you're in school together, right? Because we were in school together for a long time when we were dating, so we studied together and we had some classes together. We had neuroanatomy together, but like, aside from that, I just think whatever circumstance you are, I think that you have to be intentional about how you spend your time. And what we do,
you have to take breaks.
Yeah.
It's like we make a point that Friday nights are
Tony nights.
Are Anthony Bourdain, rest in peace, his show Parts Unknown. We love that show to death.
We've been watching it for
it was like, Friday nights we go and we get some tapas at Whole Foods or whatever. We open a bottle of wine, watch a couple episodes, and it's like that's one of the only times in the week where we like don't talk about business. So it's super. You have to do that stuff. Like I guess if there was one piece of advice, like that's what I would do. Give.
Yeah, to have intentional, and the weekends sometimes, especially
even the weekends. I mean, yeah, even the weekends are full of work now too. So
when you start a business, and I think if you don't have a team, your first few years are really, I don't like the word hustle, but your alignment is more heavily geared towards work, because I'm not burning out building this business, because I would be a hypocrite, like I'm all about living your most lit up life, and I've been through burnout. So like just setting boundaries. So advice for people working together or going to school together that are in a relationship, or whatever it may be, just knowing your boundaries or establishing boundaries. It's gonna be a little tough, because you are gonna be working more than usual or studying more than usual, or like there's seasons in your life aren't going to last forever, but you do have to accept these seasons in your life where you're gonna be doing more of something. Like we work when he gets home from work, we work until we go to sleep and we don't watch TV. And maybe for some people, you would say that we're not really relaxing during the week, but we feel so...
It's a different kind of work.
We feel so aligned.
It's not work where you're like, oh, what time is it? When do I get to go home?
No, it's a flow, actually. And like, we're not perfect. Like, we don't have this like beautiful bedtime routine where we, like have the phones off for an hour before bed, even though I would probably advise that. But we are, working.
I love bedtime.
Yeah, I know you love to sleep.
Freaking love bed.
Yeah, I know you love to, but because we take our work and we do it at night and we're on our laptops till like 10 o'clock at night, like I'm intentional about, okay, morning, I'm going to make morning my sacred time.
Dude, this girl at like 6 a.m. wakes up and like she might as well get like a headlamp because like she's using her phone flashlight and like doing work like in a dark room before the sun comes up while I'm still sleeping, like.
Because we're in a studio right now, we don't have another room.
There's no room.
We're in a box.
Unless she wanted to go into the bathroom and work.
No, that's... Yeah, I have my little phone.
So funny. It's like 6:30 and I'm like, she's like, they're working.
There are sacrifices you have to make, and you have to be okay with the sacrifices because it's really easy to not go through med school, or it's really easy to not start a business. It's really easy to
would have been easier to not start this podcast and not do everything, but it's like, would I have a lit up life? No, I wouldn't.
Like people have different purposes, and I think a courageous person builds resilience around the difficult times. Like, it's not easy all the time to wake up at 6:30, and it's not easy to necessarily spend a whole Saturday working at a cafe, but
fucking built a whole website this weekend. That's what I did. Like, if you've noticed that the podcast website is different now, it's because it is entirely different, because I sat in front of my computer for like 10 hours and did it.
Yeah, it's sacrifice. Yeah. Anything worth having in life is going to take sacrifice, and that's what alignment is. Alignment is knowing that what you're doing is in line with your purpose and your passion in life. And I believe that there's certain things in life that you don't choose to do, but they choose you. Like, I can totally agree with that, because I don't think anyone in their right mind would do many things that, like, would start a business, or maybe go to grad school and open a clinic, or do travel therapy, or I don't know, like, whatever it is. Some people, to other people, they might see that as crazy, or like, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone sacrifice these things? But it's really about allowing what that is to find you and fulfill your purpose, your soul's work, however it is, whatever it is. And I think, this episode has taken many turns. I had a few questions to ask you, and we just like let it flow. I hope the things we talked about, interviews we talked about.
Said anything of value. Hopefully. Yeah,
and just what's really helpful is feedback from you guys. Like, what do you like?
Oh my God, tell me everything.
Tell us everything. What you're getting out of the show, what your favorite episode was, what you want to hear more of.
We're finally on Facebook now. Burnt Out to Lit Up. Like us on Facebook, and
we have our own Instagram now.
Yeah, we also have Instagram, joy.energy.time.
No, Mike,
nope, wrong one.
That is our Instagram.
Different.
Right? But we made a new Instagram just for the podcast. So it's Burnt Out to Lit Up all together.
All one word, sorry.
Yeah, so it's like, essentially we have two businesses. We have the podcast, which is amazing, and then we have Joy Energy Time. So wherever you follow us, it's really easy to follow us everywhere.
Shoot us a message if you have anything you would like to hear more of, if you would like to hear less of, if you would like to hear like less of anything in particular. Just give us the feedback, and it would be really helpful.
Yeah, I want to say we're gonna do our thing, but it's nice to have feedback and really give people what they're hungry for, what they're thirsty for. So to end this, this is just something that came to mind. Should we do a random reading from my book? and we can end it with
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. This book's awesome.
I have this book from working with my previous coach, Angie, my previous health coach, and we would start our sessions off this way. And my mom got me this book, Journey to the Heart, and I open the book to a random page and I allow that message.
Who's it by?
Melody, I can't say that last name. Beatty. I'll put it
Melanie Beatty.
Melody Beatty, Journey to the Heart. I'm going to open up to a random page and let that message close off this episode.
Yeah. It's basically like a book of short stories, right?
Yeah, I'm going to read
a paragraph or two.
Okay. October 31st. No way.
Really?
No way.
So this book is broken down into days of the year. So like it starts January 1st, gives you a couple paragraphs of like
every
things.
day is a passage of some sort.
So Erica just closed her eyes and like flipped to a random page, and it flipped to October 31st, and today is October 31st.
Whoa.
Like when like
no one's gonna believe us
as we record this. Yeah.
But it's true.
That's funny. All right, go ahead.
That's never happened. Okay. Wow. Something important is happening now. There's never a time when nothing is happening. Something is always taking place. Growth is occurring. We're evolving, transforming, working things out, incorporating our last lesson, preparing for our next. Something is happening. We just don't always see it, and that's how it's meant to be. When we know too much too soon, it's easy to let our heads get in the way. We think we have to control, have to force, have to make it happen, have to do something. In a gentle but wise way, the universe takes into account our fears and our natures. It doesn't let us know too much too soon. It doesn't spoil the surprise. It doesn't want us to spoil it either. Open your heart to the universe. Trust that something is always happening. And often, it's much different and better than you think. Wow, I needed that.
Deep.
So have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are on this planet. And be sure to rate us, review us, share our podcast to your friends, family. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye.